Hello, my name is Mr. Polk and welcome to my kitchen. I'd like to talk to you today about how to use a chef's knife and how to make the classic 8 cuts. Something that's really important about this is that it's called a chef's knife with an apostrophe, meaning that it belongs to the chef. It's part of the chef. You always respect your knife, you take care of your knife, you keep it by your side, and when you're using it, it becomes an extension of your body. When we use it, there's a couple safety things we want to keep in mind. First off is always use the right knife for a job. If you're doing something really small in carving, you use the paring knife as we learned about in the other lesson. General chopping we're going to use, and general cutting we use the 8-inch chef's knife. Always make sure that your blades are sharp, in good condition. Okay? Always use a cutting board. Never just cut on a table or worse yet on metal, because that's going to ruin your blade. When you cut, it's always down and forward, even pressure away from your body. Okay? You always clean your knives immediately after use, and you wash it. You don't set it on the board and carry it around like this. It's not something you would do. When you carry your knife, you carry it down to your side with the point down and the blade back, okay? And you would let someone know, that you're carrying your knife. If you walk behind someone, you would say possibly behind sharp. Let them know. You definitely don't want to just be carrying it around like this or like this or anything like that. It's always down to your side with the edge pointing back, okay? If a knife were to fall, let it fall. Never, ever, ever try to catch a falling knife. If it slips, you let it slip, okay? And when you're done with your knife, you store it correctly, whether it's in a block or in a drawer or in a knife roll. You always want them stored correctly and safely. So let's look at our setup here before we start cutting. And there's a couple things here. We have our steel, which we'll learn about in a minute. We have our chef's knife off to the side, our peeler, and our cutting board. And you never want a cutting board to slide. So if I lift my cutting board up, I have a non-slip mat. Some people use just a wet towel. Either way, the idea is you don't want your board to slide. If you're cutting and it slides and everything slides, you could cut yourself. And then the other thing that you want to do is always have, as we learned from class, have your red sanitizer bucket ready, okay? So before we get started, what I'd like to do is just sort of show you some of the little prep things, and then we'll get right into the knife. We're going to cut in this slab some carrots and potatoes, and I just want to show you kind of the procedure for peeling your potato. Is you want to put a paper towel or two down on your cutting board. We're not going to peel into the trash can because it just gets everything everywhere. And you're just going to take your potato that you're going to use. We use this Y peeler. The peelers are sharp, so keep your hands down out of the way and just use, real nice even strokes to peel the potato. Okay? The carrot's going to be the same way. Please make sure that you're careful. I've seen guys try to peel their fingers by mistake, get them out of the way, and peel it. And then when you're done, you want to rinse the potato off in the sink and dry it off and take it back to your station so that it's ready to cut. The carrots are done in the same way. When you're finished then, all you need to do is pick up your paper towel like this, and it has all of your scraps ready to go. The next thing we need to do is prepare our knife, and to do that we're going to do what's called steeling it. Okay, it's not sharpening. We're not using a stone in sharpening. We're going to use a steel. So we're going to do another paper towel and put that down. And what happens is when you cut, right now this has a super straight microscopic edge. All right? When you cut and go like this, it starts to roll the edge over. So the hone straightens the edge out. So you take your steel in the middle, hold it in front of your body. You hold your knife, okay, which I'm going to show you the correct way to hold it in a little bit because I want to wait till I can zoom the camera in so you can really see it. And pretty much you just want to start at the heel, okay, back here, and you want to hold it at a 20-degree angle. So if this is 90, half of 90 is 45, and then half of 45 is pretty close to 20. And you just go on either side a couple times. Okay, you start right back at the heel, pull back to myself, and go on both sides like that. And just do it a few times on either side, and it's ready to go. Again, this is not sharpening it. Okay, what this is doing is honing the edge and realigning it and maintaining the edge. When you're finished, I always take the paper towel that I put down, and then I carefully wipe the knife. Whenever you wash a knife, this is where I think students, for me, sometimes will cut themselves because they think once you're done cutting, the sharp is turned off or something like that. That's not the case. Clean it from the back. So just take your towel and wipe it from the back of the knife. And then since we did use it on the steel, we'll take our sanitizer rag that we have set up, or bucket. We'll wring it out, and then we'll wash that again. And when we do that, we're going to go ahead and do it from the back of the knife. Okay? A couple times, sanitize from the back of the knife. Okay, now let's take a look at the parts of the knife and how to hold the knife. Okay, so now that we know how to set up our station, we know how to safely work with the knife, how to hone the knife, and how to clean it, now let's take a look at the parts of the knife. Obviously you have the handle in here. Inside the handle is what's called the tang. The tang is the metal from the knife that extends into the handle. The best knives have what's called a full tang, meaning the metal goes all the way to the end. These are a Mercer knife. They're a very good knife, and they have a full tang. Then you have, obviously, the very tip of the knife. Then you're going to have the cutting edge, okay? And then we have the bolster, and then this part is the heel. The bolster is what you're going to wrap your hand around. The cutting edge is what we cut with, and the tip is where we start to cut. When we make our cuts, we want to go from the tip to the heel. When we hold the knife, we're going to take our thumb and our index finger like this, and we're going to squeeze them together. And then we're going to take our remaining 3 hands, and we're going to wrap them around, okay? And that's how we're going to hold the knife. We're not going to hold it like a hammer, okay? It becomes an extension of the body. So it's the thumb, the index finger, or the forefinger. Squeeze those together to hold the knife, and then these remaining 3 hands, or fingers rather, wrap around. And that's going to make your cut. Now, the cutting motion is a down and front motion. Start from the tip, down and front, till you get to the heel, okay? Now, what does this hand do? This is the holding hand. This hand is going to make the claw, the claw. You're going to bend it back. Keep your pinky and your thumb in so they don't get cut. Keep these fingers back. And then when you make your cut, believe it or not, you will hold the knife against the knuckles as you make the cut. People say, well, why am I touching it to myself? I'm going to get hurt. If the knife is up against my knuckles, I know where it is, okay? And if the knife falls, everything goes flat. The worst thing you can do is hold it like this, and you can have the tips, okay? So you keep them back, up against, and you just keep going back like that, the claw, and always know where your knife is at all times. Now, what are we going to cut? We're going to cut what's known as the classic cuts, okay? And these are the classic cuts, classic French cuts. They start with the bâtonnet, which is a 1/4 inch stick. Then they go to the Julienne, which is an 1/8 inch stick. The paysanne, which is 1/2 by 1/2 by 1/8. A 1/4 inch round slice, the rondelle. You have a large dice, 3/4. Medium dice, 1/2. Small dice, 1/4. And an 1/8 inch brunoise cut. Okay? So let's go ahead and get started. The samples of the cuts that I had there I made on the 3D printer so you can see it. And we're going to go through each of the cuts. And the nice thing is with the video, you can stop it. So we have our potato. The first thing you're always going to do is square up your potato. So you're going to hold your knife like I showed you, use the claw, and you're going to start here and make a square cut. Now, if we were going to just cut these potatoes up to boil them for mash, we wouldn't be making these perfect cuts. This is for your finished work, when you want things to look really nice for presentation and plating the veggies and all that. So it's not that you always square up and have all this waste, or this waste could be going into stock many times, but a lot of times you just kind of balance off the cuts. But we're going to learn how to make the exact classic cut, so we're going to have a little bit of waste. Then hold your knife square to the table and make your second cut. All right? Then rotate it over. You're trying to make it parallel. And then rotate it again, and that's what's called squaring up the potato, or squaring up your product. Once your product is squared up, you're ready to start cutting. Okay? Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to start by going through a process. Let's start with the bâtonnet. Okay? The bâtonnet, it's always, you start with a slice, then a stick, and then if it's a cube, it's a cube. So the bâtonnet is a quarter by a quarter. Now I'm going to give you two things. You're going to have these little cards that you can use. And then I also have these 3D printed ones that you can use as well. And they have holes in them to see where the shapes are. Okay? And then they also have a little ruler. Okay, now you're going to hold like this. And you're going to keep your hand back, the claw, and you're going to make your cut. Now the first one is a quarter. Now you can do a couple things. Ideally, once you get going, you eyeball it, okay? And you just know what a quarter of an inch is. In the beginning, you can hold your card right next to it, and then hold your knife there, and just do a measure, okay? And then when you go in, you cut down in front, nice and even, okay? And you want to try to make a fairly even cut, okay? And then start cutting it quarter inch again. So we want to, this one I got to just square up again. And then you can, again, use your card just as kind of a guide. Once you get cutting, you're not going to need it. And you're going to make a nice square cut that's quarter by quarter. Now for the bâtonnet, it needs to be 2 inches long. So you can go ahead and make it 2 inches long. If you made your block exactly 2 inches long, you're good to go. So for the bâtonnet, I'm going to put that here. And you'll see them when I get them all back out again. And I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to make two more. So what I've just done is I've gone from a slab to sticks. Okay. Now look, I know it seems like, why am I cutting these one at a time? That's not how a chef's going to work. No, you're going to make a whole bunch of these and cut them up. Or the bâtonnet, the tape, I would cut the potato block to the 2 inches. Okay. Now once you've made the stick, the quarter by quarter stick can now get turned into a small dice. So you just simply take your knife, hold your fingers back like I showed you, and just keep making quarter inch cuts. And those quarter inch cuts are what it's going to make your small dice. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and put a couple of those on there. Then, so now we've done two already. We've done the bâtonnet and the small dice. We're going to do the same thing again, but this time we're going to do a 1/2 inch. Okay? So you can use either card, whatever one you feel comfortable with, and you can just sort of eyeball, okay, that's going to be a 1/2 inch. Take the card away, hold your fingers back, and make a down in front really nice cut. All right? Then you're going to go ahead and make your 1/2 inch cut again. Again, normally you're not measuring, but you're learning, so you're going to use the cards and you're going to measure. Now, once you make the stick, you can do two things with this. If you cut 1/8 inch slivers, okay, like this, do a couple, and again, if I was making multiple cuts, I would stack these up. Now I have a cut that is a 1/2 by a 1/2 by an 1/8, and that's how we're going to make the paisan. We'll put those there. The next thing we can do with this is we can just cut it in 1/2 inch pieces. Okay, so once you have it there, you can go down in front 1/2 inch pieces. And here's the important thing. You do want to cut them from the sticks, but I don't want to see you like cutting a piece and like this and then saying, oh, I just have to, take a little bit off. We're not whittling the pieces, okay? We're actually cutting the pieces. Now, so now we've got the small dice, the medium dice, the bâtonnet. We can go ahead and do a Julienne. Okay? The Julienne is an 1/8 of an inch. Okay? And actually, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to turn my potato this way, and before I do the Julienne, I'm going to do the large dice. So I'm going to measure out 3/4 of an inch. Okay? Come down in front. And then I'm going to measure out 3/4 of an inch again. I'm going to hold down and go down in front. And then once I have the 3/4 of an inch block, you're going to go for 3/4 of an inch again. And again, I'm just using the cards kind of for reference for you to see. As you cut, you're obviously not going to be measuring every cut, but it's just to learn. And this is a large dice. So we've got large dice, small dice, medium dice. We've got bâtonnet. We've got paisan. And now let's take a look at the Julienne. Now, the Julienne is 1/8 of an inch. It's not a sliver, it is truly 1/8 of an inch. So start with your card, down in front, 1/8 of an inch, turn it on its side, and go for 1/8 of an inch again. And I'm going to do a couple of these because these are going to get turned into two things. So for the first stick, if I turn it, if I cut it to 2 inches, like this, all right, that's going to be my Julienne. And I'm going to make another one here. So again, I don't have to always use. You don't really want to always use the card. You just want to start to kind of go with it, and that's how you learn. Is you just start to cut. The trickiest part with these is keeping them nice and square, so that you get that square cut. Okay, and then this one again, we go for about 2 inches, and there we have our Julienne. And then the last thing we do with our Julienne is we cut it at little 1/8 of an inch cuts. We're going to make a stacked salad in here, and we're going to do this for like our onions and our radishes, really just trying to show them off. And the carrots, just a real nice cut. And then we'll put those on our board. So let me just kind of review that part again. I'm not going to go through the cuts because you could stop the video and watch it. And it does take a few times of seeing it. But just remember the process, and that is, squaring up the potato. You do the one edge first, and then you turn it so you have something flat to sit it on. And then you cut. And then I like to turn it again and cut. And then one more time. Then I square up the ends. And then use the claw, and then whatever I'm cutting, I cut it as a slab. And then once it's a slab, it goes to sticks. And I'm not making a particular cut here, I'm just making a cut, and I want to show you that. It goes from a slab, all right, to the sticks, and then you take the sticks and cut those into cubes. All right, so that's what you want to take away from this, is being able to go from the slab to the sticks to the cube. All right, so go ahead and get rid of these, and then there's one last cut to make, and that's the rondelle. The rondelle is just made out of something that is round, such as a carrot. This is a good cut to start with. Usually we do this as our starting practice cut. You use the claw, grab around the carrot, cut the tip off square. And then, you can use the card. You're looking for 1/4 inch slices. Okay, and this is a good one to start to practice with the claw, because you start with it at the end, all right, and you cut. So you cut your nice 1/4 inch slices here, going down in front, and make a bunch of them. And this is good because it develops the rhythm of moving your claw hand, and also checking that you're doing 1/4 of an inch without measuring with the card, and making them all square. And then when you're done, the rondelle cuts go on the board. So let's take a look here at what all of these cuts look like now that they're all done. Okay, so here you can see the cuts. We've got our bâtonnet, all right, the 1/4 by 1/4. We've got our Julienne, which is 1/8 by 1/8. We've got our paysanne, which is 1/2 by 1/8, and then our rondelle 1/4 inch stick. And we have our large dice, which is the 3/4. We have our small dice, which is 1/2 inch. We have, our medium dice, which is 1/2 inch. Our small dice is 1/4, and our brunoise is 1/8 by 1/8. And what you're going to do here is, in the lab, you're going to just try and cut all of these cuts, and we're going to check them. You're going to have one lab where you get the practice, and then the other lab, you'll take the assessment where you cut them all and show me your cuts. So again, you'll always be able to use either the card, all right, I'll have a card for you, or I'll have one of the plastic ones, and I'll also have for you a set of these little guys that you can look at them and try and see what they're supposed to be. Okay? A couple things with this is as you're cutting, you want to start to develop a system. You always want to have that sense of safety. You want to make sure that you're thinking about, are you looking for speed, waste, or uniformity? And as a chef, you kind of pick two. If you're going for speed, you're probably going to, have a little bit of waste, and your uniformity is not quite there, but as you get better, you'll have speed, you'll have uniformity. What I'm focusing on in the lab is I don't care about speed. I want you to work safe. I'm looking for uniformity, okay? I want you to try and make these cuts, and I want you to try to make them the best that you can. As you see, like the different ones and the different shapes, you can see how they look through. The thing I'm looking for is that they're square, a nice square cut. I'm looking for that it's uniform, and I'm going to be asking you to be making 3 of these, or at least 4, 3, 4, 5 of each cut, so that I can see that they're all uniform and you're not making just one, but you're making a bunch. So in closing here, it's important to start by setting up your station with your knife, your steel, steeling your knife, making sure you wipe it, sanitize it, peel your potato with a paper towel, wash it, and then you can start to cut. And just as a quick reminder, as you cut, make sure you're holding the knife correctly. Again, I don't want to see this, and I don't want to see the pointer. I'm going this way, okay? You don't have to, call the potato out like I'm going to cut you, okay? What you want to do is the thumb, the pointer finger onto the bolster of the knife, wrap these 3 around, okay? And then as a repeat for the claw, like this, and you're going to wrap it around up against the knuckle, and you're going to make your cuts. And as you go, you're going to start to feel more comfortable with it, and things are going to start to look better, okay? In the beginning, you can use the card and measure, but as you go, it'll start to just become an extension of your body. And then the biggest thing here when you do this is to just try to focus. Take your time. Again, we're looking for uniformity, not speed. And ultimately, you want to use safety. And just as a quick review of the safety pieces, remember the chef's knife, it's an apostrophe, it's possessive, it's yours. So when you're done, you want to hold it by your side, point down, edge back, go to the dishes and wash it. When you wash it, do not just let it in the sink. You hold on to it, you wash it, you rinse it, you sanitize it, you dry it, it goes right back in your knife roll or in your block. You never just let it sit there, and you would never just put it in the bottom of the sink for someone else to wash. Okay? So in closing, we went through a lot of things today. We took a look at a lot of different cuts. I know it's a lot, but you just pause the video and go through it. Remember, it's all about cutting the slab, the stick, and the cube. If you make a 1/4-inch slab, you can get the bâtonnet and the small dice out of it. If you make an 1/8 inch, you get a Julienne and a Brunoise. 3/4 by itself. Medium, if you do a 1/2 inch, you'll get a medium dice and a paisan. And then the rondelle is a 1/4-inch cut out of something round like a carrot. Okay? So I'd like to thank you for cooking with me today, and I can't wait to cook with you real soon right here in Mr. Polk's kitchen.